Frederick Bailey Douglass, born a slave in Talbot County, Maryland in February of 1818. He didn't know much about his parents except that his father was white and that his mother died when he was 7. Douglass had 4 sisters and 1 brother: Kitty, Sarah, Eliza, Ariana, and Perry Douglass. Along with most other slave children in the area, he was raised by one family, which just happened to be his grandparents. In 1824, when he was 5 years old, he was taken to a plantation to work as a house slave. Slaves were usually given 8 pounds of fish or pork, a pint of salt, and a bushel of cornmeal a month. At the beginning of each year, they were given 2 coarse shirts, 1 rough jacket, 1 pair of heavy trousers, 1 pair of socks, and 1 pair of shoes. When Frederick got older, he and a few other slaves hoped to escape from the plantation on boat, but someone told the plantation owner about their plan and they were caught. When he finally escaped, he rode 3 trains, 3 ferries, and 1 steamboat. Frederick had to borrow seaman's papers from a friend so he could prove that he wasn't a slave. While he was in New York, he changed his surname from Bailey to Johnson to prevent slave catchers from catching him, but there were too many people with the last name Johnson, so he changed his surname from Johnson to Douglass. Frederick Douglass discovered the empowerment that comes from learning to examine as he grew up. Now Douglass possessed a manner to inquire information and procedure it. This changed into a huge leap forward for his coming-of-age experience. He finally ought to research things for himself and develop his very own opinions. From the first lessons from his master's wife, Frederick Douglass became determined to discover ways of study, even at his slave owner's disapproval. Frederick Douglass' efforts did not forestall at analyzing, and after working very hard, he received the potential to write, giving him another way for his thoughts to be displayed. While studying a newspaper, Douglass found out about the abolitionist movement. He strongly identified with it and started to deeply hate slavery. From this moment on, he had a burning preference to escape.
Fellow citizens, pardon me, and allow me to ask, why am I called upon to speak here today? What have I, or those I represent, to do with your national independence? Are the great principles of political freedom and of natural justice embodied in that Declaration of Independence extended to us? And am I, therefore, called upon to bring our humble offering to the national altar and to confess the benefits and express devout gratitude for the blessings resulting from your independence to us? I am not included within the pale of this glorious anniversary. Your high independence only reveals the immeasurable distance between us. The blessings in which you this day rejoice are not enjoyed in common. The rich inheritance of justice, liberty, prosperity, and independence bequeathed by your fathers is shared by you, not by me. The sunlight that brought life and healing to you has brought stripes and death to me. This 4th of July is yours, not mine. You may rejoice, I must mourn. What to the American slave is your 4th of July? I answer, a day that reveals to him more than all other days of the year the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is a constant victim. To him, your celebration is a sham. Your boasted liberty, an unholy license. Your national greatness, swelling vanity. Your sounds of rejoicing are empty and heartless. Your denunciation of tyrants, brass-fronted impudence. Your shouts of liberty and equality, hollow mockery. Your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgivings, with all your religious parade and solemnity, are to him mere bombast, fraud, deception, impiety, and hypocrisy. A thin veil to cover up crimes that would disgrace a nation of savages. There's not a nation of the earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloody than are the people of these United States at this very hour. At a time like this, scorching irony, not convincing argument, is needed. Oh, had I the ability and could reach the nation's ear, I would today pour forth a fiery stream of biting ridicule, blasting reproach, withering sarcasm, and stern rebuke. For it is not light that is needed, but fire. It is not the gentle shower, but thunder. We need the storm, the whirlwind, the earthquake. The feeling of the nation must be quickened. The conscience of the nation must be roused. The propriety of the nation must be startled. The hypocrisy of the nation must be exposed, and the crimes against God and man must be proclaimed and denounced.
Frederick Douglass has been called the father of the civil rights movement. He rose through determination, brilliance, and eloquence to shape the American nation. He was an abolitionist, human rights and women's rights activist, orator, author, journalist, publisher, and social reformer. Douglass accomplished many things in his life, including establishing an influential anti-slavery newspaper. On December 3, 1847, Douglass established the North Star. It developed into the most influential African-American anti-slavery publication of the time. Published weekly, it was circulated to more than 4,000 readers in the U.S., Europe, and the West Indies. Another accomplishment would be that Douglass traveled to Ireland and Great Britain. At the time, the former country was just entering the early stages of the Irish potato famine, or the Great Hunger. While overseas, he was impressed by the relative freedom he had as a man of color compared to what he experienced in the United States. During his time in Ireland, he would meet with the Irish nationalist Daniel O'Connell, who would become an inspiration for his later work. In England, Douglass also delivered what would be later viewed as one of his most influential speeches, the so-called London Reception speech. In the speech, he said, "What is to be thought of a nation boasting of its liberty, boasting of its humanity, boasting of its Christianity, boasting of its love and purity, and yet having within its own borders 3 millions of persons denied by the law right of marriage? I need not to lift up my veil by giving you any experience of my own. Everyone that can put two ideas together must see the most fearful results from such a state of things." A final accomplishment for Frederick Douglass would be that he advocated for women's suffrage at the Seneca Falls Convention. The Seneca Falls Convention, which took place in New York in July of 1848, was the first women's rights convention. Douglass was the only African American to attend it. During the convention, a heated debate took place over women's right to vote. Douglass argued eloquently in favor of and conclusion of the women's suffrage resolution, stressing that the world would be a better place if women involved in the political sphere. His powerful speech led to the suffrage resolution being passed. Frederick Douglass was an amazing leader. He led a nation through an entire abolition movement. He was able to do this with his courage, education, determination, and leadership. Frederick Douglass led by using a paternalistic leadership. He looked at the slaves that followed him as family and wouldn't let anything happen to them. Douglass once said, "What is possible for me is possible for you." By taking these keys and then making them his own, Frederick Douglass created a life of honor, respect, and success that he could never have dreamed of when still a little boy on the plantation on the eastern shore of Maryland.